Well, good afternoon and welcome to How to Rock the Virtual Stage. I'm your host, the Trigger, Rich Bontrager. Welcome back for another exciting show where we teach you tips, tricks, practical insights on how to virtually present yourself on the virtual stage, because every business, every career right now is pivoted online. And even the future going forward, when we go after the COVID shutdown and we re-enter society, the virtual stage has become so powerful. This will continue long after the shutdown is complete. So it's a very important part of your career, your business now, to learn how to present, to teach, to educate, to showcase yourself better and better. In fact, this is your new greeting card. This is the new front door to your business. So we want to help you do that better and better with great experts coming on the show every week to give you new tips, tricks, insights from their own experiences, both the good and the bad sometimes. Today, we have a really great guest. She has gone everywhere from stage to model to news to author to expert. You're in for a really golden treat as we have the special daytime show for you. But coming up later on this week in our regular normal prime time, 8 o'clock Eastern time, we are going to be with a Harlem Globetrotter, former Harlem Globetrotter, Herbert Flight Time Lang will be with us. Yes, he will spin a basketball on his fingertips, but he is not just a former Globetrotter. He's a speaker, author, and he also is all about freedom and joy and just an amazing bundle of happiness. We're going to talk about how he's doing that now virtually for people around the world as well. And then coming up the following week on Wednesday night, we're coming back on the 17th. Chris Borgio is going to be my guest. And Chris is running a virtual platform where you host your events. It's not just a simple Zoom or a Google Time event. He runs a full stage, a full production company. And we're going to talk about how to get your whole event to go higher and higher to a higher quality. So join us in 2 weeks for that one. But here today, we are going to talk with a model, an author, a speaker, Dominique Ricks Murphy. And by the way, she's in the Virginia area. I'm coming out of D.C. We're in the same neighborhood, folks. It's a local show today. We're going to have the president of the Right Method with us, three-time Emmy Award winner. She's a Miss Virginia American 2020. She also runs a 501(c), author, professional speaker, video content creator, and the list is not done. She is a three-time Emmy Award-winning journalist. And the cool thing about this, we're going to talk about this today, is she has the ability to get people to open up and tell stories and secrets that really not a lot of people can get out of them. Welcome to the stage, my newest friend in the broadcast world, Dominique Ricks Murphy. Good afternoon, Dominique.
Good afternoon, Trigger. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
First of all, congratulations on your book. You and I first met because you were getting the book out. You wanted to talk PR, virtual stage, a little bit of fun like that. What was it like going from journalism to author for you, being behind the microphone, on stage, to now putting the word and pen together?
You know, it was actually a very easy transition because a lot of television, what a lot of people don't see, is writing. So a good part of the day is finding compelling stories and crafting those and writing those in a way that has a strong lead, that's very compelling, but really visually tells the story. So the transition was actually pretty easy.
Now, when you were a journalist, did you do a lot of your news writing? Because a lot of people, they have writers and then they have on-set people who just read. Were you a part of the correspondence writing, or were you just a glorified mouthpiece?
You know, never. I was not a talking head. No. And I always took pride in that. The way the industry is pivoting, a lot of people do a lot of everything. So, of course, you have a producer who writes the copy. I'm a person, I like to talk in my own voice. And so I've always been somebody who, when I have a copy, I take it and basically rewrite the whole thing, dissect it. I'll add more, I'll take things out, because you want it to be your own voice.
Now, your voice, you won a beauty pageant. Now today the beauty pageant industry has taken a couple hits. It's not as politically correct as it used to be. Tell us about your experience with that and what was your voice like through that? Because there has been people with great voices that never won a pageant, but their passion was really good. What was your experience with that?
Sure, I'll go back a few years to tell you a story to kind of bring this whole thing full circle. The last pageant I did, I've been in pageantry for many, many years. And the last one I did was 11 years ago. And I had done one prior, didn't place well. And I decided this time I was going to go all in. Like this was going to be the year. I was not going to leave a stone unturned. I was going to put everything into it. And so I ended up hiring, and at the time I was much younger. I took a bunch of money out of my accounts and I said, I'm going to invest. This is it. Like this is it. So I got a coach. I had a dietitian, I had a trainer, I had someone who was making my dress for me, custom made. I had a hairstylist. I had a whole team, the whole glam squad, if you will. Super expensive. I don't recommend that. But anyways, I decided I was going to go all in. Well, the problem was I trained for 12 months leading up to this. And when you train for 12 months super hard and you don't have your own authentic voice, you end up doing more harm than good. And what happened in my story is I was listening to so many people who told me how they thought I should be, how they thought I should sound, how they thought I should look, that in the end, I wasn't Dominique. I don't know who I was. I was so thin. I had lost so much weight because I was working out nonstop and I was on diet pills. And I don't like to talk about this, but I like to be authentic with the audience. And I had lost all this weight. I got there. I was so weak. I was so tired. I couldn't even think. I couldn't even put my questions out there. And nothing came together. My dress, I remember the woman who made the dress, I didn't see it until the day of. The strap didn't fit on. Oh, it was like candid camera gone wrong, okay? So I get out there and long story short, I'm sure you can guess what happened. I lost. I didn't win. So when I left that pageant, I said, okay, wow. I spent 12 months training and it ended up being a total cluster. Like what happened? And I realized it was because I couldn't speak up for myself. I couldn't say, no, that's not how I sound, and that's not what I want to say, and that's not the color I want to wear, and this is the dress I like. I couldn't do that because I was such a yes person, and I always wanted to please everybody. So my answer was, whatever you want, okay, sure, right? And that was not me. So 11 years went by, and I held this dream in my pocket, and I knew at some point I'd find a time to go back. I didn't know when, didn't know how. And then January of 2020, an opportunity presented itself to compete again in the Mrs. Virginia American pageant. So I told my husband, I said, I think this is the year. And he was like, really? I'm like, yeah. This is the year. We're going to go all in. But this time, I'm not hiring all these people. I'm just going to be me. Authentically, unapologetically Dominique. And went and was myself and did things the way that just resonated with me and made sense. And I took the crown home. So that's just a little bit of advice for anybody watching this, that be yourself. There's nothing more beautiful than your authentic self.
And that's a great point that I want to come back to. Just a reminder, everybody, the chat box is open, the Q&A box is open. If you want to drop in a question for Dominique today, feel welcome to do that. Also, second half of the show, don't forget, we are going to bring you in live backstage, and you get to ask your personal question to Dominique yourself. So take notes and be ready to do that. Let's go back to the idea of finding your voice, because that is an amazing thing. And people are podcasters, they're TV show hosts now, they're bloggers, and people are trying to find their voice. And you and I both know finding your authentic voice, showcasing the real you, is much better than faking it on camera virtually. Give us some other tips on that. How can people find that voice? Because you don't want to be Walter Cronkite. You don't want to be Dan Rather or whoever, or Dominique. You want to be yourself.
I always say no one can beat you being you, right? So never copy, just be authentic. And so I know people are going, okay, I get it, but how? How do I do it? Like drop some wisdom on me, how do I do it? So here's what I recommend first. I'm a big list person, so I love writing things down. So my first recommendation for you would be to make a list, and you're going to write 15 things down on that list that describe you. Like, who are you? Like who are you? Are you loyal? Are you tenacious? Are you driven? Are you shy? And make a list of 15 things. And then I want you to focus on those and say, which one really resonates with me? Like, who am I? Who am I? Another exercise you can do, and I recommend this to a lot of people, you can text your friends and say, hey, listen, send me one word that you think of when you think of me. And oftentimes, I did this exercise years ago, and the word I kept getting back was tenacious bulldog, tenacious bulldog. And I was like, okay, I am a Taurus. And, it's true, because I'm very driven and I don't stop till I win. And that's just how I am. So sometimes if you just can't figure it out, ask the people who are closest to you, How would you describe me in one word? And that can help you craft your voice, who you are. Now, from there, I always recommend that you find your why. We've heard that saying tossed around, find your why. What does that mean? It's finding your it. So why do you do what you do? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? Like, what is that thing that sets your soul on fire? And I mean, like, oh, that does it, right? And whether you're doing it or not, but maybe it's somewhere you want to be. What is that thing? Every single person has that why. And what you want to do is think of it like an onion, and you want to peel those layers back. So oftentimes, Trigger, I'll hear people say, I'll say, what's your why? And they go, oh, well, I get out of bed because I have to go to work. Well, why? Because everybody goes to work. Okay, well, why? Because I need money to survive, but why? Well, so I can live a lifestyle that I want. Why? So I can support my kids. Why? Because it's important. So that person's why is their children, right? So you want to be able to dissect that. Like, what is your why? Like, what is the reason why you're like, this is it? This is why I fight for what I do. What is it? And as soon as you figure out your why and figure out your authentic voice, doing the exercise I just showed you, then it becomes crystal clear like that.
So again, that's all gold. Make sure you're writing this down. This is why we bring in the experts here on Rock the Virtual Stage. I'm going to do this in two parts. You are known for going after some of the toughest interviews in the industry. Why?
Why? I love a challenge. I love a challenge. I have a saying, Rich, and it's actually written on my bathroom mirror. I'm a quotes person, so I have a few affirmations on my mirror. And it says, why not you? Why not you? We as humans make up so many excuses as to why we can't do it, why we're not worthy, why we're not good enough, why we're not smart enough, why we're not pretty enough, why it won't happen for us, why we don't have the money, why? Why not you? Someone's going to crack that interview. Someone's going to get that opportunity. You're just as worthy. You're just as smart. Why not you? So that's the reason why, because why not me? I mean, I love interviewing people, all people. I love telling stories, and it's just something that also lights that soul in my fire. So that's my reason why.
So that's your reason why. Now, you're also known for getting them to crack on camera and give the goods up. Now, is this partly of your voice, or is this a different skill that you get them in interview mode to loosen up and give it up? How do you do this?
Sure. Well, it's a multi-part thing. It's not you show up and they like open up all their secrets to you. So one thing that I do is I'm all about cultivating relationships. Write that down. Cultivate relationships. That's going to take you very, very far. So what that means is when I go into an interview, I don't just walk in or spend 20 minutes on my phone looking them up from a Wikipedia Wikipedia page before I go into the interview. I study people that I interview very well, and I ask questions that no one else asks. So how I start my interviews. So you want to start with softball questions. So in case the person's nervous or they're just kind of getting into the groove, you're going to ask the questions that you don't really care about, just the flyaways. So how's your day? What's the one thing that, makes you smile? And you might end up using that, but you're using your softball questions first to make that person comfortable, because part of it is time. If the interviewee feels uncomfortable, if they feel like you're rushing them, if they feel like you don't know your stuff, then your interview won't go well. So one thing I recommend is learning something about that person that you cannot find on the internet. So that's what I always do with every person I interview. I find that one nugget that no one else knows, and then they'll go, how did you know that? And then it endears the person to you immediately, because they're like, how did you know that? So that's one trick that I always use is I find that nugget, and I can tell you how I do it later. One of many ways. Actually, I'll tell you now. So LinkedIn is a great resource.
Yes, our favorite tool. One of our favorite tools here.
Yes. And what I like to do on LinkedIn is I always scroll down into like the hobbies, because oftentimes in interviews, most people have between 1:15 to maybe 3:30, if you're lucky, for an interview. And everyone always asks the exact same questions. Like, why? What is this? Copy paste, right? The generic, why do you do what you do? Tell me about your company, blah, 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 right? We've all heard all those things. I don't care about that, because I can already find that on YouTube. I want the interview that's different. I want the interview that people go, How do you get them to do that? I mean, I've had, business tycoons drumming in their houses, singing songs, dancing, because I like to think outside of the box and I like to make it different. So going back to that LinkedIn example I was giving you, one thing you can do is scroll down to the hobbies and find something different that you won't find in an interview. Maybe you'll see like ballroom dancing or something random. That's a question. That's interesting, right? Or one thing that I like to do is reverse engineer. So on LinkedIn, you'll find high schools and colleges. Call the school, get the yearbook, look at the yearbook, find something different about that person. So that's a hack that I always use, and it works every single time.
That's fabulous. Now, these hacks also work for virtual stage, for podcasts, for everything that's being created now with this new industry of the virtual TV shows, interviews like these. These all directly translate, right? You can do the exact same thing right now in any format, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So, do you? I mean, I actually have a 5-question base, and I'll say, okay, give me your 5 easy softball questions so we can get you warmed up, have some fun. But I know in journalism, usually the executive producer, somebody wants you to have that one hard nut. They want to have that one tough question. What's the etiquette? What's the rule of those? Is that one of those? Do you intentionally break the taboo of don't ask that question of me? Or do you go for the question that they say, don't ask me on camera? Where do you go, Dominique?
It depends on the interview. So I've won 3 Emmys, as you see behind my head, for different types of stories. One is for entertainment. One is for a tragic breaking news story of a 17-year-old who was shot at 13 times by a police officer and killed. And the kid was suicidal. So, I mean, I've covered all spectrums. So on a story like that, it's a much different interview. And we went after the police department because we're like, how did this happen? So on an interview like that, it's my responsibility to hold whomever accountable because we need answers. So in situations like that, I will always ask tough questions, the questions that make people uncomfortable, the questions that you just want to get the information. No problem doing that. But it depends on the place and time. If I'm doing a story on you, Rich, or another business icon, I'm not going to sit there and make them uncomfortable because I want to have a great relationship. I want to learn their story. So it really depends on the subject matter. If you're covering an in-depth, can you say that 5 times fast? If you are covering an in-depth story.
Not the minute and 30 seconds. You're talking about a
Right.
5-minute piece or a 10-minute piece.
Right. So if it's an in-depth report and you're doing something hard hitting, you definitely don't want to be the softball person shy on the corner. You need to go in there and say, hey, listen, how did this happen? We need answers because you're now the advocate and the voice for your community. So I say it really depends on what type of story you're covering.
So what tips would you give for podcasters, for these new people that are just now beginning into it? Some people think this is all about the bling and the pop and the notoriety, but you and I both know as journalists, there's a lot of grunt work in this. And for you to get those hard interviews, it took you a lot of work probably to land those interviews. Talk about the techniques of going out there and really doing the work well, not just showing up on camera.
Oh boy. Yeah. I love it when people say, oh my gosh, did someone do your hair and makeup and you just show up and smile? And I'm like, oh, I wish. Where do I get that job? So no, unfortunately, buzzkill. Sorry. It's not that at all. It's a lot of work. If you want to be a journalist or an on-camera personality in any sense of the word, you're going to put the wood in. And what I mean by that is a lot of people want the heat first, and then they want to put the wood on. You have to put the wood on first, and then the heat comes from that. So you got to work, you got to grind. No is not a no. It means never ending opportunity. And I live by that. So the amount of times I've been told no on stories, this Emmy right here, I was told no by my boss 3 different times, and I wanted to cover this. And no, it's not a good time. No, it's not a good time. No, it's not a good time. And finally I was like, I'm not going to stop until they say yes, because I know it's a great piece. And long story short, it ended up earning an Emmy award. So I firmly believe that when you have that vision and you know something's really good, don't take no for an answer. No just means not right now, but keep going and keep plugging away at that.
You are the president of the Right Now Method.
The right method.
Okay, the right method. Excuse me. What is that exactly?
So the Right Method is a personal and professional development agency, a media company at its core. So my background is, it's journalism. I love talking to people and I love telling stories, but I also like motivating people to be better, to do better, and to get to that next level. So what I did with the TV crew, we traveled all over the USA interviewing big business icons, from the co-founder of Constant Contact, Alec, to Jeff Hoffman of Priceline.com, to Brain Tracy, one of the most famous, motivational leadership experts of all time, Mitzi Perdue, Sharon, Lechter, all kinds of people. And what we did is we went inside their homes, into their living rooms, and conducted these one-on-one interviews about how do you reset yourself and your mind. 97% of people, there's a Gallup poll that came out that says 97% of people they're complacent and they're disengaged in life, not just at work, but in life. And so there's something here, because people with this COVID stuff, they're just going through the motions. They're not happy. We hear the stories, just the awful stories. I mean, suicide rates have quintupled in some cities. Domestic abuse rates, child abuse rates are through the roof, because people are dealing with these insane levels of stresses they've never dealt with before. Depression through the roof, mental health, just all these issues. And so I'm like, what can we do to create something that can make people go, aha, there is more for me. I can do better. I can reset myself so I can achieve more. So that was the premise. We traveled, we interviewed the most successful people on the planet and said, how did you do it? I don't want to make mistakes, and neither does anybody else. So let's accelerate this path. Instead of going through this and you're frustrated and you're stuck and you're failing and you're like, why is this not working? Let's just go from here to here. And we show people the way on therightmethod.com.
So you also have the book, and just give us one slice. Let's not give away the whole thing here. But what was your biggest, most unique story maybe that you stumbled on from one of the experts, and even for you, it took you back a little bit?
Well, the experts are not in this book. This is a personal expert.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Do you want to know about this or one of the experts?
Let's talk about the experts, then we'll come back to your book, because you called it Reset, and yeah.
Yes. So this is step one of step two. So let's say one of the best stories, shocking stories or best stories?
Which one blew you away the most for you? Because you have interviewed so many people. This has happened to me too.
Yeah.
Where even I'm sitting there going, I've got goosebumps. What was that one for you that blew you away?
There's so many that it's hard to pick one, but I'm gonna pick on Mitzi Perdue for a second, and she's just such an incredible woman. Mitzi Perdue, you probably recognize that last name, Perdue Farms. So we went and interviewed Mitzi, who's just a doll, and it was incredible because she shared this story of when she grew up. She had a speech, she had a lisp, and a really, really awful lisp, and she couldn't lose it. And she said that people would make fun of her. It got to the point where she was so embarrassed by this that she physically could not pick up the phone and call people, because she was so embarrassed by her what she calls a disability. And so she worked through it. Finally, she went and saw experts and went to go get treatment. And the expert said, we can't fix you. So she went to a second doctor, and they said, sorry, you're too old. We can't fix you. And she was in her 20s at the time. They said, nope, you're too old. We can't fix you. And so finally she went to a third person. She goes, no is a never ending opportunity. I'm not taking no as no, because it's not no. I just need someone who believes in me. So she went to the third person and said, can you fix me? And the person said, no, but I'll take your money. And so she said, okay. And she went, and she would drive an hour and a half there and back every single day to work with this woman, work with this trainer. And weeks went by. No change. And the doctor was like, this is not going to happen, but I'll keep taking your money if you just want to keep coming. She kept going because she did not believe that woman. Les Brown has a quote: someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. Let me say that again, because I live by this quote. Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. That means unless you accept it to be true, it is not true. Unless you choose, unless you give that power away, it is not true at all. And so she chose not to believe this woman. She chose not to believe the two other experts who told her it would never happen. Long story short, she was able to get her voice back and remove the lisp. And not only did she do that, she went on to get a national television show that was syndicated. So Come on now. If that's not a story, hello.
Well, and again, that whole mantra, as a guy who stutters for a living, who does this for a living and coaches people on stage to stage and present and talk, I totally live by that mantra. I totally agree. So that's a great story. And again, I know we have other people that have been viewers that have been on the stage here with us, very similar. And it's kind of amazing how many actors, actresses do have a stutter. And there's a whole nother conversation how they put on a new persona to actually do what they do. It is letting go of themselves and just taking it on. And that's a whole great other conversation. So tell us about your book now. Tell us about, because I know, again, you and I first met with the launch of your book. Tell us more about that and where it's going now and how that's grown.
Yeah, so the book is called Reset, and the tagline on the book is AIE. It's an acronym that I live by, and that stands for Attitude is Everything. Think about that for a minute. Attitude is everything. What that means is you're always in control, but so often we play victim. 95% of people live below the line in blame, shame, and justification. Only 5% of people live above the line in accountability and responsibility. And this book talks about that. This was actually a book that I wrote not only for everyone out there who was stuck or suffering or struggling or just really like in a place where they're like, I just need to reset my life. It's filled with real stories. And for the longest time, I talked about it earlier, I was so fake. I was not authentic because I was so afraid of what would people think if they knew like my real story. Like, what would they think if I wasn't the perfect buttoned up person? Like, what would they think? And so it was actually a beautiful release personally to be able to put a lot of real stories in there. And these are stories that are very relatable from, and I don't want to give them all away, but from almost failing out of college to being fired to, I mean, all kinds of things are in this book. And I did it because I wanted people to see the real me, first and foremost. Number two, to see like, whoa, she's really real and dang, she's overcome some things, right? Because we all have. Everyone has a story. Everyone's overcome adversity. Everyone's had struggles. And so I felt like I was doing a disservice to the world by not being real and authentic. So that's what Reset does. The first part of the book literally talks about a reset from changing your paradigm, changing your mindset, all of that. And the second part of the book is actually a journal. So for 30 days, you will actually do your own personal reset. Yes. So the book's available. It's on Amazon, everywhere books are sold, but I just kind of funnel everyone to Amazon for that book.
And in the world of COVID, in the world of shutdown, what 2020 has done has reset almost the entire world. What a great timing of. Did you start this before shutdown, or did this come out through the shutdown?
You know what? Actually, I kind of started it before, but not fully. It was just an idea in my mind. And then when COVID hit, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is such an opportunity because this is a book that people really need right now. And that's how it came to be.
Timing is everything, right?
It is. It always.
Hey, before we break for the second half of the show, just want to remind you, this is a special edition. Normally we're at 8 o'clock in the evening. Coming up this Wednesday night, we're going to have Herbert Lang with us, the former Globetrotter. And Herbert is kindness is free. He has a hashtag. Add that to your hashtags. Hashtag kindness is free. He is a best-selling author himself, philanthropist, and motivational speaker. We're going to have a great time with Herb. He has met the Pope and got him to twirl a basketball. How cool is that? Next Wednesday, the 17th, we're going to come on back. Chris Borjo will be my guest, the virtual conference and expert. He is building communities and building business platforms to help you rock the virtual stage with events, not just simple things like we do here very often, but actual events where it looks, feels, and acts like an event virtually. You want to join me with Chris. So as we wind down the first half of the show here, Dominique, what would be your biggest takeaways? Anything special to surprise us with, or how do you want to wrap up the first half here?
Ooh, I'd like to give away a free reset course. Can we do that?
Yes, we can.
Okay. How do we do that? Do you pick a person or how do we, is there
You
a
can
wheel?
pick a number. Pick a number 1 through 1 through 10. Let's just do 1 through 10 this afternoon.
We're going to go, people will never pick the outliers. So I'm going to say 1.
Okay.
So we're going to do 1.
I'm just going with the list that we have in the chat box, the way they're populated in there right now. So Aaron gets himself a copy of the book. I have Aaron's contact information. He's a regular here
We're actually
on
gonna do
Stroke
the fourth.
TV. Aaron will get himself a book of Reset. We will make sure we get the information off to Dominique. And congratulations, Aaron. You won yourself a book here. And again, Dominique, this has been fabulous. Thank you very much for sharing the broadcast, the production tips as well. In the post liner notes, we'll have all the information how to get in contact. We'll have a link to Amazon for that book as well. And of course, if you want to follow up with Dominique, do so. She's also on LinkedIn. Very easy to find her. As always, How to Rock the Virtual Stage. Right now, it's currently on YouTube. We also have a brand new platform, rockthestage.com. All the prior episodes are being put up there. Coaching content is going up there. Please like and follow. And that's also you'll find the new schedule for Rock the Virtual Stage. If you want to get in touch with me, Rich at richbontrager.net. I'd love to hear from you and help you continue to expand your abilities on the virtual stage.